Have you ever wondered how to get started creating an app that can help you transfer money to people's bank account without having to involve your bank? This video is for it. Today, we're going to learn how to create an application that can help you transfer money to people's bank accounts without having to do that with the traditional way, that is using your banks. And why should you even bother yourself thinking about how to create such an application? One of the very huge benefits that I can tell you right now is that this type of app can be used to pay staff salaries. And with that, it means that you can create what they call a bulk transfer within this kind of application. And you can pay, maybe if you have hundreds of staff in your company, you can pay them at once and then keep the records. That is just one of the benefits that this kind of application offers. And for sure, I want you to understand before we begin that this one is just based on a single transfer. This is just going to be one person at a time. It's not based on a bulk transfer. And the API that we're going to be using is called the Flutter Wave. Okay. And I have another video that I have done with a Paystack, which was also based on transfer. And if you want to watch that, maybe I should include the video link in the description box below. But without wasting much time, let's go ahead and test this application. As you can see, the application is going to request for your name, it's going to request your bank name, then it's going to request your account number followed by the amount that you want to transfer to the person. So let's say that I want to transfer some money to somebody. Now let's say, let me put my name right there, CJ Benkino, and we'll go ahead and then select our bank, and I'm going to select Access Bank. And I'm going to go ahead and pop in the account number right here. And for the amount, let's say that I want to transfer 200 Naira at this moment. And we'll go ahead and hit transfer. And congratulations, as you can see, that transfer went through. If you take a look at the status right now, it says successful. So that means that that particular transfer has gone through. And we'll have the ID right here. Okay. And then the amount that we transferred, which is 200 right here. And then the bank name was fetched. This is Access Bank. And this is the account number that we transferred to. Here we have the time that this particular money was transferred. Then if you take a look at this place where it says full name, you see Alexis Sanchez, which was not the name that we typed in the form. So I want to explain that to you right now. I am still on a test mode within Flutter Wave. In fact, pretty much all of the APIs out there, they don't normally allow people to transfer money successfully if people are still on test mode within their system. So just for a simulation of how this application would work in the live mode, they provided this name for us. Okay, so we just simulated how this could be in the live mode. So assuming that I have money on my Flutter Wave account and I'm switched to live mode, I'm going to get the name that I typed in that form right here. Okay, and then yeah, so that is just what that is going to be. And I'm going to prove something to you why I say that I'm still on the test mode using this particular reference. You see, there is a number, some characters that are attached right here. I'm going to explain this to you as we code along. Okay, so this is the test mode. I'm still on test mode. That's why I was able to get Alexis Sanchez. Alright, so without wasting much time, let's go back again to this one was successful. But what if it was not successful? Alright, so let's try the fail part of it. So if the transaction or the transfer failed, what can we get? Let's go back to the interface again, or the index field. Alright, so transfer. Alright, so let's go through this again, but this time around we're going to make sure that the transfer fails. And selecting the bank, I'm going to go ahead and select First Bank right now, which I know in the simulation mode they don't have First Bank in that transfer. So I'm likely going to have that page die down, and then it's going to show me an error. Okay, so I'm going to select First Bank, and I'm going to go ahead and stick in the bank account again right there. And let's take away this. Let me put my Retract account for First Bank. So this is going to be 303613941, and I think I should also change my name. Let this be Chijioke David. And for the amount this time around, let's say we're going to transfer 1,000 Naira. And if you click, and if I go ahead and then hit transfer right now, this payment is going to fail. Okay, I should have it redirected to the failed page, and as you can see, it failed. It says payment failed. Okay, and yeah, so that is just that. So once that's the data for the application, then it's going to fail and redirect us back to this particular page. So that's just how the application works. So without wasting much time, what we're going to do right now is to go to the development environment and see how we can put this kind of application together. Alright, so I'm in my HD docs right now. If you want to be there, you can just go to localhost, XAMPP, then HT docs. So this place is just like a host for your application, as long as you're working within your local system. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder for the application we want to create right now. So I'll create a new folder. I'm going to go ahead and call this, let's call this, I think the first one was called the transrave. So if we call this one now rave transfer, I think that would be a nice name for it, rave transfer. And what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and open that rave transfer with my editor. So let me open up Visual Studio Code. Alright, so within Visual Studio Code, let's click on File and then click on Open Folder. And I'm going to try to bring up the folder right here, or the folder location. So I'm going to look for Rave Transfer, which is this, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Select Folder. Alright, so that has been opened and I don't have any file inside of it. In fact, if you want to visit that file, the folder, let's go ahead and visit the folder right now. So that will keep that open, we'll keep our eyes on it. So to visit that, I'm going to just say localhost /rave transfer, and let's go ahead and open the folder right there. So as you can see, the file is open. The folder is open, but there are no files inside of it. So let's go ahead and, alright, so let's go back to our development environment and create our first few files. And I think that the first one that we should create now is going to be the index page. So I'm going to click on File. I'm going to just type index.php and open that up. And the next thing I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and generate the HTML boilerplate for this application. And let's go ahead and change the title right here and we call that a rave transfer. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that because I'm going to use that as my H1. And I misspelled a rave. Let's correct that immediately. So that should be rave, not RAVT. So I'm going to copy this. And within, alright, so once you have that copied, let's go ahead and create a div right here. So I'm going to just create a div and I'm going to give it a class of container. So this is going to be container, and then we'll go ahead and close that div right here, and we can go ahead and create a h1 right here so that we can include the title that we just copied. So this is going to be h1, and I'm going to go ahead and paste what I just copied, then go ahead and close the h1 right here. And then the next thing that I would like to do now is to go ahead and create a form within this page. Okay, and to do that is really very simple. I'm going to just say this is form action, which is going to be, we're going to send this to an empty strings, which means that we're going to use the same page to process this particular form. So the next thing that we want to set right now is going to be the method. So let's set the method to be equal to post. So I'm going to just type post, and that's just that for that opening tag. So let's go ahead and close the form tag right here. So this is going to be form like that. And we could, alright, so within this place right now, let's go ahead and create our first label. So this is going to be label, and the first label is going to be full name, and we can close the label right here. And I'm going to go ahead and create the input field for that label. So this is going to be input, type is going to be text, so this is going to be text, and we're going to set the name to be equal to, and the name is going to be equal to, we're going to just say full name right there, and we're going to go ahead and set the value to be equal to nothing for now, but we're going to include something right there later. So what I'm going to do right now is to copy this particular label and the input field, and I'm going to duplicate that. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do right now is to create the field for the, what is it called, the bank name, which I'm going to do down here right now. So this is going to be bank name, and this is going to be a select tag. And let's go ahead and close the label right here. And for the inputs that we're going to need right now, this is really going to be a select tag. So I'm going to go ahead and say select. This is going to be select, and let's say that the name of the select is going to be, and let's say that the name is going to be set to, we'll call that bank code, bank underscore code, and we can go ahead and close that select button right here. So we can just say select and go ahead and close that. And within this particular select tag, we're going to have to create some options right there. So I'm going to just say option, and the first option right now, we're going to go ahead and set this to be, let's say that this is going to be choose, we're going to just say choose your bank, and we'll go ahead and close that particular option. So it's going to be closed right here, and we're going to go ahead and create the next one. So this is going to be option, and this time around I'm going to have to attach a value attribute here, which we're going to go ahead and set to be equal to the bank branch code. So of course this part is going to be access bank. So if we say access bank right there and then close that off, within this particular value right now we're going to go ahead and include the bank code, okay, which globally it is just 3-digit numbers. First bank is 011 like this, but for access bank it is going to be 044. Okay, so this is really very important. All right, you are going to have to include this, otherwise the transfer will not work, because Flutter Wave requires that you should know the bank name of the person you are transferring money to. So this is really very, very important. It is very important for you to know the bank code to every particular bank that you are going to be transferring money to. Okay, this one is for access. Diamond Bank has its own, First Bank has its own, and even, in fact, all of the banks have their own unique code. That's what they use to identify them. So what I'm going to do right now is to copy this, and I'm going to paste that then to include that of the First Bank. So for First Bank, the code is going to be 011, and I'm going to go ahead and enter the name right here. So this is going to, let's just go ahead and say First Bank like that. So, and this is going to be just the number of banks that I'm going to include right there. You can include the rest of the banks if you want. You can include all of the banks right here. Okay, so that is just that for including the bank. So the next thing that I would like to do right now is to go ahead and then provide a field where we'll have to put the bank number. And to do that is really very simple. So to create a field for the account number, what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it down here, and I'm going to change this to, this is going to be account number like that, and we're going to change the type right now to number, so that we only accept numbers, because bank accounts are only in numbers, bank account numbers. And for the name, we're going to just say account underscore NO, which is short for account number, and of course we're going to include this letter. And that is just that for that line. So the next one that we want to do right now is the amount. So let's go ahead and paste what we just copied again, and let's change this from name, full name, to this time around this is going to be amount. So we should just say amount right there, and this is going to be number, of course, and we can go ahead and change this particular name right now to amount. And the next thing that we're going to do, the last thing that we're going to do on this form, is to go ahead and include the submit button right here. So we're going to just say input type, go ahead and set that to be equal to submit. And as for the name, let's go ahead and call that something like pay. So I'm going to just type PAY right there. And for the value, which is the text that people are going to be seeing, we can go ahead and do something like transfer, and we can go ahead and close this off right here. Okay, and that's just basically what we need right now on this index page. So let's go ahead and save this, and we can go ahead and include our CSS tag right here. Let's go ahead and include our CSS tag. So to include our CSS tag, this is going to just be called link rel, which is going to be set to style sheet. And as for where the file is, well, so we're going to just do href, and we'll go ahead and set that to be equal to this. We're going to create a folder that we'll call CSS, and within that folder we're going to have a file that we're going to call start.css, and we should go ahead and create that right now, because that's probably the next thing that we should do now. So I'm going to save this up, and then if we go to our folder right up here and click on create folder, this particular one, or you can go to the other side and then create that right away. So I'm going to just say CSS, and if I click on this CSS, I need to go ahead and create a file inside of it, which is going to be called style.css. okay, and that is just that. I have that open right here. To test whether that is connected to the page that we just worked on, we can just go ahead and say something like body, and let's say that we'll give the body a background. So if we say background color, we go ahead and then do something like khaki right there. If we save this and we try to visit that page from our browser, we should be able to see that background take place. And as you can see, that took place. So that means we are really connected to that particular what is it called, that particular CSS right now. Okay, So without wasting much time, let's go ahead and then add some more styles to this application. So at the very top of this page, I'm going to just reset some of the paddings and margins that this normally comes with. So with a star right there, what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead. So let's go ahead and zero out the margins and padding. So I'm going to just say margin, and I'm going to set that to be equal to 0 right there. And for the padding, that's going to be equal to 0. And let's go ahead and do something like set our border box. No, not border box, but box sizing. That should be box dash sizing. And we can go ahead and set that to border box, just like that. So if we save and go back to our browser right now and refresh, you're going to notice that some of the paddings and margins will be adjusted. Okay, so you see that is a lot closer to the edges right now. So that is just what that particular line is doing. That is just a normal reset. Alright, so the next thing that I want to do right now is to go ahead and then include some styles for the H1. So we're going to just say H1, and let's go ahead, maybe the font size of the H1, let's go ahead and set that to be equal to, let's say 2em. No, let's say something like 3em to that. And the next thing that we want to do now is to go ahead and then center that text. So with text align, we can go ahead and say center. And the last thing that I want to do is to just change the color of that text to red, like that. Okay, and if you refresh the page, you notice that that will take place. Alright, so that effect take place. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then include the style for this for the form that we have right here. And to do that, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'm going to just copy the style for that form and paste it right there. Alright, so I have the style for the form copied, and what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and paste it right here, and I'll go over it. Okay, so if you scroll to the top, not the top, but where the form styling started, so that started from here. And don't be confused with this class name, which is called container. I think you probably already know that we have a class that we call container right here. So that is just what we have right there. So you have to reference to the container first before you can go ahead and begin to talk about the form itself. So what we're basically doing is to set the width of the form to 60%. Then this is the margin of the form. We're setting that to be auto so that it can push the content to the center of the page. And then we are now doing a couple of other settings right here, so followed by the rest of the things that you can see here. So let me just scroll down a little bit so that you guys can see that. So it started from here. Let me just highlight that. As I move, you guys can take a look at that. Okay, so this is where it stopped. This is where it stopped. You can go ahead. Let me just show you that from the beginning. So this is where it starts and it ended right here. Okay, so you can pause the video and type that right now. So that is that. So I'm going to just go ahead and save this page, and if I refresh that on the browser, we should have the form look just nice. And congratulations, this is how the form is looking right now. And if you did not type that right, I will include a link to GitHub repository where you can get this particular CSS to this form, or probably you can just go ahead and style it your own way. Okay, you don't have to use my own styling. I believe that most of you already know how to style forms. So that is just that. So we have our user interface completed right now. So the next thing that we want to do right now is to go ahead and start working on the PHP part of it. So let's go back to our development environment, and if we go to our index page right now. Alright, so we're on the index page right now. What we're going to do is to go to the top of this page, and let's open up our PHP tag right here and close it down here. And the first thing that I want us to do right now is to check if someone presses, I think I have to close this out. If someone presses this submit button, this particular button called transfer, which has a name P, what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and gather all their input from here, or maybe probably check whether they really typed something in here before sending, because we don't really want them to submit an empty form. So to do that, first of all, to know whether someone clicked on that particular button or not, we can go ahead and use if statement right here. So I'm going to just say if, and within this place I'm going to just say is set with a function called is set, and I'm going to use a super global variable called post. So if someone presses that button that we call the pay, what do we want to do? So the button name is called pay, P-A-Y. What do we want to do? For instance, let's go ahead and echo let's say something like transfer initiated. So let's go ahead and say something like initiated, transfer initiated. So if you save this right now and you go to the form, so if you come to this form right now and press transfer even without filling the form, you should be able to get that word that says transfer, and we get transfer initiated right here. Look at it. So that means that's just a way to test and to make sure that this form, this particular submit button, is really getting the data. So if we go back right now, the next thing that we should do is to go ahead and let's go ahead and gather the form data right now. And to gather the form data, what we're going to do right now is to go ahead and put them in regular variables. Okay, and let's do that down here. But then I have to comment this out. I really do not need to have this in here anymore. So let's create our first variable. This is going to be called a full name. Type that full name, and we'll go ahead and then use the super global variable called post. And within this place, what's the name for the full name? If you check our form, we'll have it right here. So this was called full name. So we need that. We're going to have to copy that and place it right there. And before we go ahead and close this, we're going to have to use security function to wrap around this particular input in case people may do something harmful to our system. So to think that people will never do something harmful to your system is naive. So let's try and do that. Let's say HTML. This is going to be HTML. This is going to be special Charles, and it's the function. So we're going to put parentheses around that just like this, and we can go ahead and terminate this line right now. And so that is it, HTML special Charles. So we'll go ahead and copy this and duplicate it a couple more times. Alright, so let's go ahead and change this one for the next one. I think that the next one was called a bank code, so we're going to just say bank, and the name which we have within the form is bank code, so I'm going to copy that and put it right here. And the next one that we'll need or to grab right now is account number, so I'm just say count, then NO, like that, and we can go ahead and then that was called count number right here, so I'm going to copy that. And the last one is going to be amount, so we should bear that in mind. So I'm going to put the account number right here, and the last one is going to be amount, and let's go ahead and put amount right here. Alright, so that's basically the form data that we have gathered. So alright, so we basically have all of those variables in place right now. And before we move ahead, I would like to correct this particular variable that I started with capital letter. I don't normally do that, so let me go back to what I used to do. So that should be just small letter right there. So let's go ahead and then check for errors in case people did not really fill in this form or want to be able to show them some errors. So to do that, let me just put a comment here and say something like check for errors, like that. And to do that, let's go ahead and put that in an if statement. So I'm going to just say if, like that. So I'm going to just use a function called empty. So this is going to be if empty, a variable name. So the variable name that I want to check first of all now is going to be the full name. So if it is empty, that means if someone did not fill in his full name, I want to be able to report an error down here. So for instance, let's say that the error is going to be, I will just say error, and we're going to go ahead and say something like all fields are required. Okay, so all fields are required, and I'm going to go ahead and terminate this line right now. However, it's not only the full name that we want to put the check in place, so we're going to have to copy this right now, and let's use all right here. I'm going to just say all and paste what I just copied, and I'm going to use bank code this time around. So this is going to be bank code, and I'm going to do another all for the next one, which is going to be for the account number. So I'm going to go ahead and put account number right there, and another all. The last one is amount, so I'm going to paste this and then change this to amount. So that's going to be amount. I think we basically have 4 all right there, which is the number of variables that we have up here. Okay, so that is just that we have that error in place. However, if you save this page right now, before we go ahead and test that out, I want us to go up to the top of this page. You see all of these variables that we have right here, we need to initialize them to empty strings first of all. And I'm going to start off with full name. So this is going to be full name equal to, let's say that equal to bank code. That's going to be equal to bank code, and the next one is going to be account number, and the next one is going to be the amount. And finally, we're going to go ahead and include error right here, and we'll set everything to an empty string so that it doesn't give us an error when we first load the page. And let's look for a way of displaying this error to the user, because where it is right now, nobody will be able to see this if there is an error. So to do that, we're going to have to go to within our HTML part, and let's put that right here. So let's say that we're going to have a span, and let's give it an ID to be equal to error, like that. And we're going to have to, in PHP, we're going to just go ahead right now and then echo out that error variable right here. So this is going to be echo error, and go ahead and close the PHP tag, then close the span right here. Okay, and we can go ahead and style this, within our CSS. First of all, I want to save this, and let's go to our browser and refresh. All right, so we have this in place right now. So if we go ahead and click on submit, we should be able to see an error because we didn't fill out the form. And it seems like we have an error right here, so which you can clearly see that the function that we typed in there was not correct. So this should be special charged. So what we typed there is incorrect. Let's go back. Let's scroll up to where we typed those functions, and this is going to be changed to S instead of E right there. And I'm sorry about this particular typographical error. So it should be special chars, not special char like I have right there. So let's go back to the browser and refresh again. And if we go ahead and click on transfer, and as you can see, we have that error displayed right up here. So it says all fields are required. So let's go ahead and start that within our CSS. So if we go to our CSS right now and we'll come to the bottom of this page, that's an ID, so we can use hash to reference to it. So I'm going to just say error, and the first thing that I want to do now is to just make sure that that is displayed as a block level element. And I'm going to go ahead. The next thing I'm going to do now is to text align that to the center of the web page, and after that I'm going to just go ahead and change the font size. Let's say something like 2em, and the final thing is going to be to change that to red color. And if we save that and go back to that place, if we refresh, we should be able to see that changes take place. And we have that all fields are required. So let's assume that the errors are now free. People were able to fill in the form or everything in the form, because as it is right now, in fact, let's go ahead and fill this form out. If we fill this form out right now, the bank access, and if we go ahead and pop in the account number right there, and we go ahead and put the amount that we want to transfer, this time around let's say 700, and if we go ahead and click on transfer, you're going to see that that form is not just going to do anything. It's just going to stick here just like that, and it's not displaying any error. That means the fields are filled out, but then it cannot proceed from here. So what we want to do right now is let's go to this place, and then we have to add an else part here. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is to go ahead and add an else part right here. So within this else part, what we're going to do right here now is to go ahead and then integrate the Flutter wave transfer API. Okay, so what we're going to do down here is to go ahead and integrate the API. But before we do that, I want us to do something right now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this variable right now. And what I'm just going to do now is to, if I go to this form right now, you see, this place is where we have value. I want us to help the users, so as they type the form and then try to submit, if they ever made any mistake, the form data should persist. I don't want them to disappear. So we're going to just put PHP right here, and then we'll go ahead and echo what we just copied, which is full name, and terminate that line, and then close the PHP tag. And we can go ahead and then copy this. Let's go to let's say that the bank account, which is here. We're going to go ahead and say account number right here, and for the other one, which is amount, so if I paste that right here, I should change this variable name to amount. So that way we're going to be helping the system persist the data without deleting them. So let's scroll up to where we were working on the transfer of the application, which is right here. So what we're going to do right here now is to go ahead and use Coil. So we're going to be using Coil to make this particular integration. Okay, which I have done many times in my channel, which I know that quite a lot of you already know. And in fact, I feel like typing those lines of Coil again and again is just a kind of repeating myself all the time. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and copy just the basic COI connection or the core file. I'm going to just copy the code right now and just paste it right here, and I'll go over it. Okay. Alright, so guys, I have that copied right now. What I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then go ahead and copy and paste that right here. So let's enter something like down here. Let's see integration ends here. Let's see integration ends here. So whatever you see between these, integrate the Flutter transfer API to up to this level is the code that I just copied right now. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in between. So guys, I have that pasted right now. So let's go over it. And what I'm doing right here, so as you can see, it started from here and it's ended right here. Okay, so let's go through it line by line. So what I'm just trying to do here is, so for the explanation, I'm just trying to initialize the COI session right here. And on the next line, I'm just trying to turn off the mandatory SSL checker since we are not connected to the internet. And after that, what I'm trying to do is just configure the session based on whatever type of request, which in our own case, we're just trying to make a post request right here. And yeah, so the same thing applies to the, we're deciding that this is a post request with this line. If I set it to something different, maybe false, that means it's not a post request. And down here, we're just trying to convert the request data to JSON objects. That's what we're trying to do, or JSON data. And after that, we have our headers right here, which here we have application, and we also have our content type right here, which we're going to modify. And down here, I'm trying to run the COI. So here is where I'm trying to execute the COI with this line of code. And if you scroll down, I'm just trying to check for errors. If there is any errors, I'm going to go ahead and put it in this variable. And I'm using if statement to check for that, and then I'll put a message to the user. And here I'm just trying to close the COI, and here I'm using a var dump to go ahead and then kind of send a message to the screen, or send a message to the screen for the user to see. Alright, so if we scroll to the top, let's scroll to the top to where the integration started, which is right here. Okay, so before we go ahead and then do something right now, I want to take us to the documentation page, because that is what is going to guide us for this integration. We need to modify all of these things. I mean, a few of these things. We need to supply the data that it's really needed, because if we go ahead and run it this way, we're not going to get any tangible result. We're going to get errors. So let's go to the documentation page for the transfer API on Flutter Wave. So if we go to, alright, so I want you to come to this page right now, which is developer.flutterwave.com/docs. And if you are right there now, you can scroll through this left hand scroll button or scroll bar to find the transfer set documentation. So I'm going to just go ahead and look for the transfer documentation, which is right here. You see where they wrote transfers in bracket with the have payouts. So I want to click on that right now to scroll to that section. Alright, so as you can see, we have that. We are now on this particular section. Okay, so you can spend your time trying to read all of the things that they have right here. But what I'm going to do now is to just scroll down a bit to the transfer data. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have some money. That's what they're saying. So you need to go there, go to your dashboard and make sure you have some money right there. But there is a way to mimic how the application works without going to include that right now. And I think that the first thing that we need right now to complete a transfer is to make sure that we get to the endpoint. So the endpoint to the transfer right now is what we are seeing on this place. So I want to go ahead and copy this. I'll copy this, and if we go back to our development environment right now, alright, so I have that copied, and to paste that right here, we're going to go ahead and paste that in quotations like this. And we're going to go ahead and set that to this particular variable that we have on this initialization. So I'm going to copy this and then paste it right here. And I'm going to add an equality. So that means that the URL that we have right here is what we have. Right, so I'm going to terminate this line. You can alternatively copy and paste this right here. But I just want to separate things like this so that people will understand that more. So this variable right here is what we have in this place. Okay, so the transfers, the endpoint is this. So we're going to have to go ahead and stick that right there. So that is just the first thing that we need. Then we need to still go back now and then study some other things. And the next thing that we need to understand now is that this is a post method, and within that post method, that means we're going to need a couple of files which are down here. But before we get to that place, you see this place where they wrote headers, we need some keys right here. The first thing which I've shown you is that the content type was set application JSON, which we've already done. And for this place where it says authorization, bearer, then secret key, this is where you have to enter your secret key. In fact, let me show you that within the application. I have not entered mine, but let me just show you where that is. So if you scroll down to this place, you see we have authorization, but right now I have not included my own authorization. And then the content type is really set to application JSON. If I without wasting more time, let me go ahead and get my authorization key and put it right there. So if you don't know how to get that, let's go to our dashboard within Flutter Wave and get that right now. So you go ahead and enter your password. I've been logged on for a long time, and what we should do right now, and once you are logged in, you need to go to your settings. So if you use this particular scroll bar, go to your settings and click on it. And once your settings page opens, you need to go to, I think you need to go to API. Let's click on API. And here it is. So we have our public key and our secret key right here. And before you really copy this, you need to be sure that you are switched to a test mode. Okay, so this is my test mode environment. If you want to switch, you can do that from here. Let me close this out. You can do that from here. So if you click on this, you can toggle between live and test mode. So I'm already on test mode, so I don't have to change that right now. So what I need right now is to go ahead and copy this particular key. Okay, so I'm going to click on copy, and I'll get that copied, which is my test secret key. Okay, and I'll go back to my development environment, and I'm going to go ahead and stick that right here. And let's go ahead and then paste that, what we just copied right here. Alright, and in order to paste that right here, we need to enter the word called the bearer, like that, then space, and go ahead and paste whatever you want to paste. So remember this, you need to type the word bearer, then you go ahead and paste your key. And please guys, don't use my own keys. You don't have to type this. If you just log into your own, you get your own unique keys, because if I ever switch to live mode, you are going to be having issues. Okay, so please don't use my own keys, just use yours. That is that for getting the keys. So if we go back to the development environment right now, or the browser rather, and we go to the documentation. So this particular integration needs some data that we need to include, which in this case, the most important thing that we need right now is going to be things of this nature, like the bank account, the account bank, which in this case we call that bank code from our application. And we need account number, we need the amount that wants to be transferred, we need narration, we need the currency, reference, callback URL, the debit currency. Okay, so we need these things. And of course, if we don't have these things in place, we will not be able to make the transfer. Okay, we are going to have issue with the transfer. So what are we going to do right now? So let's go back and prepare an array that is going to carry this into the COI or into the Flutter Wave Set Transfer API. They are going to need this for them to be able to transfer the money. And then to do that, let's go back to our development environment, and I'm going to scroll up to the beginning of this place. So I'm going to go ahead and then do that right here. Alright, so to prepare the data, the arrays, I'm going to just create a variable right here that I'm going to just call transfer underscore data, and I'm going to use squares this time around. And then let's go ahead and terminate this line immediately before we forget. Then let's just format the square this way, and within this place, this is going to be where I'm going to create that array, the array that we're talking about right now. Okay, and the first one that I want to pick right now is going to be the full name. And to create that, if you go back to the documentation, we're going to notice that for us to get the full name, okay, the full name is not in here, okay, but if you scroll down from the response, we should be able to see the full name. Look at it right here. So what I'm just looking for is these names, these particular array names or array keys. Those are the things that I'm just looking for. Okay, so let's scroll up, or rather let's go back to our development environment. So the first thing that I'm going to include right now is that name, that particular full name. So I'm going to put that in a quotation like this, and I'm going to use arrow and go ahead and set that to whatever name that the person typed in the form. So in our own case, what we have is in this variable. So this variable is going to be collecting the person's name. So instead of typing anything right there, I just have to copy and paste that particular variable called full name, and I'm going to use comma to separate it from the next one that I'm going to type. This is an array, so you separate arrays with commas. So the next thing that I need to do right now is the what is it called, the account bank. So the account bank underscore bank is going to be set to the bank code. Okay, so I'm going to copy the variable called bank code, copy that, and then go ahead and place it right here. It's going to be a variable, so put the dollar sign there, separate it from the next one. So the next one that we'll need right now is the account number. So I'm going to just say down here, I'm going to just say account underscore number, and that's going to be equal to the variable that contains the account number, which is right here. I'm going to copy that, add the variable sign, and paste that right there, separate it with comma, and the next thing is going to be the amount. So I'm going to just say amount, and that is going to be set to be equal to the variable that contains the amount. So I'm going to just say amount right there, comma, and the next thing that I need can be, let's say something like the narration. So I'm going to just say narration. So let's say that the narration, if you don't know what the narration is, this is just the statement that a kind of a description to what you are doing. So we're going to just go ahead and call this staff salary payment from Code Kinder, like that, and we can separate that with a comma. And then the next thing that we'll need is going to be the currency that we're going to be transferring in. So we're going to just say currency down here. So it's going to be currency, and that is just going to be equal to NGN. So I'm going to just type NGN right there, which is Naira. And if you are in Ghana, Kenya, or any other part of the country, you should know your currency initial right there. So just go ahead and stick it right there. Okay, so you are transferring from Naira, and then for the person that is receiving the money, you are transferring in Naira. Okay, so they are debiting you. How do you want them to debit? Are they going to debit you in Naira, or they are debiting you in a different currency? That will be the next place that we're going to set now. So to do that, we're going to just say debit underscore currency, and we're going to go ahead and set that to be equal to NGN again. So I want them to debit me in Nigerian currency, that's Naira. Okay, alright, so the next thing that I need right now is going to be the reference key. Every transaction should have a reference, so I want to be able to have a reference. So this is going to be reference, and the reference should always be unique for every transaction. So for me to get different or unique references, I'm going to use a function in PHP that we call unique ID. So this is going to be called the unique ID, and so I'm going to use that particular function called a unique. Is a function, so I'm going to have to include this right here, and I'm going to put, I'm going to separate that like that, and of course I'm going to add something to this place later, but I just have to separate that right now, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you why I have to do that. And the next thing, or the last thing that we need on this array, is going to be the redirect URL. This is not really compulsory, but I think it's necessary. Add that. So this is going to be redirect URL, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to be equal to, so let's say that we're going to have a page that we're going to call verify, and that page, let's go ahead and say something like http:// this is going to be on my local machine, so I'm going to say localhost and / my folder name. The folder name to the application that we're just working on was called a rave transfer, so I'm going to just say rave transfer and / words. So this is going to be the file name this time around, so I'm going to just say verify.php. okay, that's the full path that I want them to redirect to after the whatever that the transfer, if the transfer works. Okay, so this is going to be the last thing that I need on this array, so I'm not going to separate that with a comma. Okay, so what are we going to do right now? We should go ahead, and we need to copy this variable. So I'm going to take this variable right here, and there is a mistake on that variable. I did not include the equality sign right there, so that should be equal to, so this is how it should look like. Okay, equal to. So I'll copy this particular variable right now and scroll down So once you scroll down to this line that says convert the request data to a JSON, so we need to convert the array that we just created up here to a JSON object so that the API can be able to process it. So I'm going to paste that particular variable that we copied right here, and that is just that for this. So I'm going to save this right now, and let's go ahead and test that. And before we test that, let's scroll down a little bit, and if we scroll down right here, so I want you to understand that this is really where this is gonna print out something on the screen for us, whether it's successful or not. But sometimes I used to have errors with how this displays. So what happens is that I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a PR tag. So I'm gonna just say echo, and this is gonna be PRE, and the variable that I want to paste right now or print out right now, I'm going to concatenate onto that, which is going to be called run, and concatenate again, close the PRE tag right there, PRE, like that, and we can go ahead and then terminate this line right here. So I'll save this, and let's go ahead and test that within our system. So if we go to the application, we need to refresh. So let's refresh this page right now. Alright, so we have that refreshed. Alright, so let's go ahead and fill out this form and see whether that transfer can go through. So let me put my name right here. So this is going to be, let's say, Chito, Chijioke, David. And then let's select our bank right here. My bank is First Bank. And let's go ahead and enter the bank account again. So this is going to be 303-613-9441. And then we go ahead and then hit, let's go ahead and put maybe 100 Naira to transfer this time around. Then we'll go ahead and click on transfer, and of course we should get an error. Okay, and I will tell you why we would get an error in a moment. So if you look at the status right now, we have the status to be set to error. Okay, and then the message says that the transfer creation failed, and then we have the rest of the data right here. Okay, so that means that the transfer did not really go through. Okay, and the reason for that is because we are on a test mode, and for you to simulate what happens in the live mode, you need a particular bank account and a particular bank code to be able to do this. And not only that, there is a character that you need to append to that of our transfer, that of our reference, in order to have a successful, in order to mimic or to simulate a live transfer or a successful transfer. And let me show you that on the documentation page. So if we go to the documentation page right now, so if you are on the documentation page now, I want you to click on this link. Let's go to this place. And wow, it seems like what we're looking for is not here. So let's go back. I think okay, this should be the link. Let's go to this link, APIs. Alright, so we should go to this instead. So let's go to APIs. Alright, so I think so down from this left hand side, it seems like this page is even a better documentation page for Flutter website integration. So if you scroll down and look for transfer, so under this place where it says transfer, you can just click on create a transfer. So let's just scroll to that section. Alright, so we're on the section of creating a transfer. Of course, everything that we have here are the things that we have already seen. But if you scroll down, we are going to see in their documentation that if you want to mock a successful transfer, there is a key that you need to, you just have to look at this place where they say mocking successful transfer. You need to read this page very well and understand. Okay, so if you want to make mock a successful transfer right now, we need to include this particular key right here. Look at it, this key. We need to include this particular key in that reference. So if you have something of this nature, this is going to help us make a successful transfer. So look at the statement. They say this would return a callback for a successful transfer after 1 minute. So I'm going to copy that right now. And if we go back to my development environment, and if I scroll up to where I have my reference right now, alright, so if we scroll to the reference right now, and that is right here. Okay, so what are we going to do now? We need to include that or append that to this page. So to do that, I'm going to concatenate onto that. So I'm going to just put a dot, and then in quotation, I'm going to go ahead and paste what I just copied. Okay, this is going to help us get that a successful transfer. This is going to help us make a successful transfer. So I'm going to save this right now, and if we go back to our browser, we need to try that again. And before we try it, I think there is something else that we did not really grab on this page, and that is it. To be able to make a successful transfer. In fact, before we go ahead and then try that out right now, there is something else I did not remember to show you guys, and that's the particular bank account and the branch code that you need to use. So they also specified it there. So it's within this page, but I think look at the account number right here. This particular account number is an access account number. Okay, so the access code or the bank code is 044. That is the account or the bank code that they allow for you to make use of if you want to simulate a successful transfer. So what we're going to do right now is to go ahead and then copy this. That's what we're going to use in the test. So let's go to this page. Let's refresh our work, and let's go ahead and then fill this form. We can fill that with any name since it's not going to return our real name. So let's select Access Bank this time around, and then the account number, I'm going to go ahead and paste what I just copied. Then go ahead and then put an amount that I want to transfer. Let's say I want to transfer 200. So if I hit transfer, hopefully I should be able to get success this time around. And congratulations, guys. So as you can see, if you take a look at the status now, it says success. So that means that money has been transferred. Okay, transfer occurred successfully. So that is just that. So you need to include that particular key that we included, and you have to use this particular bank account. And of course, if you're on a live mode, you don't need to include that. Once you switch to live mode, you need to take that away, and then so that is just how it's going to be. Alright, so once you're on a live mode, you wouldn't need that. You're not going to need to include that key. I'm talking about this particular key. So once you switch to live mode, you need to take this away. Okay, you have to go ahead and take these particular keys away. So alright, so the next thing that we're going to do now, let's scroll down to this place. So down here, you know that what we're getting from our browser right now, everything that is coming back to us right now is coming back as an array, and for us to make use of these things within our system right now, or to be able to grab onto the things that are coming back from Flutter with, what we need to do right now is to go ahead and convert that to object. So to do that, I'm going to just go ahead, let me just put let's put a comment here. Let's say something like convert to objects, obj, like that. And to do that, I'm going to put that in a variable, which I'm going to just call response. So this is going to be called a response, and I'm going to set that to be equal to Json underscore encode. No, not really encode, but this time around I'm going to just say the code. So this is going to be the code, Json underscore the code, and of course it's a function, and I'm going to pass in this particular variable that contains what comes in as an array or what comes out as an array. So I'm going to paste that variable right there. So once you have done this, we can now access whatever that is coming back from Flutter Wave using arrows, and we're going to do that down here. So let me comment. Before I comment that, let's go ahead and let's go down to this place, and let's say for instance we want to, alright, so let's first of all get the status. So I'm going to create a variable that I'm going to call status, and then I'm going to go ahead and then once we say response, we can go ahead and use an arrow like this to get the response, and for us to the index name for this, which is success right here, is called status. So for me to get this from this page, I'm going to have to use status. So I'm going to type right here, so this is going to be status, like that. I'm going to go ahead and terminate that line, and the next one that I want to do right now is to get the ID. So to get the ID, I'm going to just say trans underscore ID, and that is going to be equal to response, and with an array again. This time around, the ID is located within this array called data. So I need to access data before I can get the array. So I should type data first before I get array. Okay. So if I go back to my development environment and I say data, use another arrow, and then I can now say ID. So with that, I've just gotten the ID. Okay, so that's just basically the two things that we need right now. And down here, I think what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then redirect to the next page. But before I do that, I think let me just use if statement to check whether truly what is in the response contains what is in the status response contains success or not. Okay. Alright, so to check whether it contains success, and of course we need to, let's go ahead and then comment this line out, and we can move this content. Let's move this to just before the closing session, like that. So alright, so we're going to use if statement down here now, and I'm going to just say if the variable called status is equal to success. What do I want to do right here? Okay, that will be the next thing. If we have status to be set to success in there, what do I want to do? And of course, that's a positive move. We can say something like echo, just to test. We can go ahead and say something like echo. We can do something like echo, something like success. We move very fast, and let's terminate this line. So if what we have on the status is something like something else, maybe we have failed, we can go ahead and also check for that right here. So what I'm going to just do is go ahead and then either I redirect to a failed page right there, or we can just kind of output. Let's say we output something like failed right here. So we say something like failed, and we can go ahead and then terminate this line. Okay, so this part is only going to run if what is in the status is not success. But as long as it is success, what is going to run is this particular part. So we'll save this right now, and we go ahead and then refresh that page. I think we should be able to get the success part of it. So as you can see, we get success right here, and we move. So had it been that it wasn't success that was on the status, it should have redirected us to a different thing. So let's go ahead and then do the redirect right now so that we can move on. I'm going to take this away, or just comment this out. Let me just comment it so that you guys can have it. So the next thing that we need right now is to go ahead and include the header redirect function right here. So I'm going to just say header, and I'm just say location. Now where do I want to redirect to? So I want to redirect to a page called verify.php. That's the page I want to redirect to. But in redirecting to that place, I need to take the ID to that place because I'm going to need the ID to verify the transfer. So to put something on the URL like this, we're going to just have to put a question sign and go ahead and create a variable for it, which in our own case, I'm going to just say transfer underscore ID. That's transfer ID, and the ID that I want to use is in a variable. So we can concatenate onto this and then bring in the ID variable right here, which I think we'll call that trans ID. So I'm going to go ahead and then copy that and place it right here, like that. And we can go ahead and terminate this line. Yeah, then we should put the space here. Okay, so we can go ahead and then we put something like exit down here so that we don't get had already set kind of error. So I'm going to just copy this. Sorry about that. I'll copy that and then paste that down here, and I'm going to modify that. So this time around, this one is going to be sending me to the failed page. So this is going to be called fail.php, like that. And so that's just how it's going to be. Okay, so if I save this and then we'll go ahead and create the page, this new page. Alright, so once you have that saved, we can go ahead and then create the new two pages that we just created. So the first one that I'm going to create now is going to be verify.php. Go ahead and open that up, and the next one that I'm going to create now is going to be the fail.php right there. And let's work on this particular one first of all, which is called the verify. And in what I really want to do on this page is to see how is it that I can verify this particular transfer, which we really need to also go to Flutterwave's API to get the kind of guide on how to verify a payment or a transfer. Alright, so let's go to the API right now. And if you are still on this page right now, you're going to notice that if you take a look at this place, you will see a place where it says get a transfer. Okay, this place where it says get a transfer, and if you watch here, it is a get request. So I'm going to just click on that right now and let that open up. Alright, so once this page loads, you see that the documentation is really very simple. They say get a transfer. So if you want to get a transfer, the endpoint to getting a transfer is just almost the same thing. You have to just go to transfers, then you pass in the ID right here. That's what this means. So once you get to this particular endpoint, you go ahead and pass in the ID within this place, and then that is just that. So what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and then pull up the. Alright, so let's go back and then see how is it that we can do that. Okay, so if we come back to this place right now. Alright, so let me first of all throw in my PHP tag right here, and you can also close that out. And within this place right now, what I'm going to do right now is to go ahead and paste the coil or the CURL code for us to make this get request connection right now, which of course I know that you guys already know that because I've been doing that quite a lot of times on this channel. So trying to type that out is a kind of repeating myself. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that right now, and we'll scroll to the top of this page, and the first thing we need right now is to get the URL or the endpoint to this application. Okay, but before I do that, let me scroll down a little bit so that you guys can see everything that I have. So you can type that out right now. Okay, are you seeing everything? So it started from here and it's ended right here. Okay, so get this copied right now or type it down right now. It's not really too much, so you can type from here to this place at this moment. Once you're done, you start from here down to this place. So this is just what we'll have. You can pause the video and type it. I'll be waiting for you for us to begin. Alright, so if we scroll to the top of this page right now, and let's go ahead and get the URL or the endpoint. So if we go back to the browser, and I'm going to just go ahead and copy this URL right now, copy that and go back to our development environment. I'm going to go ahead and paste that URL right there. Okay, which of course we're going to have to dynamically bring in the ID from here. Okay, but before I bring in the ID, what I want to do right now is to scroll down to the bottom of this page and include my reference code, not really my reference code, but my authorization key right here. So let's go to the previous page and copy that. So the previous page has that. So this is my key. I'll copy that and I'll go back to this place and paste it right here. That is just that. So let's scroll to the top and start working on this bringing in the ID. Okay, remember that we are passing the ID through the URL. Okay, so since we are doing that through the URL, what we need to do Alright, so to dynamically bring in the ID right now from the URL, we can use if statements up here. So I'm going to just say if, and I'm going to use the function isSet. Within this isSet right now, let's employ this variable called $_get, since we're going to get that from the URL. And within this place, we're going to go ahead and then paste. We're going to go ahead and paste the ID, the variable that contains the ID. In fact, so let me go ahead and paste the variable that contains the ID, which I just pasted. I just copied right now, which is this. And we need to include our curly bracket right here, which I'm going to go ahead and take this right now. I'm going to take the closing curly bracket. I'll cut that, and then I'm going to go ahead and place it down here. I'm going to go ahead and place it down here. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and include an else part right there, which And then for the else part, I'm going to go ahead and use a die function right here, which is going to say something like, let's say we could not find an ID to that transfer. Okay, we could not find an ID to that transfer. Let's go ahead and terminate. You could alternatively put your redirect URL right here. Maybe you should just redirect to the index page or the field page. Okay, you can redirect maybe the field page. It should be, that would be the best place for it to go. Go to the field page right here. So if you don't understand what I did right here, it means, let me just explain that. If it's set, this particular variable is set on the URL, we want to go ahead and run the code that is here. You understand that we want to run this code up to this level. But if it is not there, then we'll run this particular part. That's what that means. So if it is there right now, we should be able to kind of get this from that place. We need to kind of print out something to the screen for us to see. So let's save this page. No, before we save the page, we need to get the ID and place it right here, which I'm going to just say variable, and we could go ahead and just say transfer ID, and then let's go ahead and copy and then place it right here. So we can use a security function around this, which they normally call HTML special chars. We've used that in this video. We can go ahead and close this parenthesis right here and then terminate the line of code. Okay, so now all we need is to go ahead and take this particular ID, which is a variable right there, and append it to this URL. So I'm going to just take away that, and then I'll concatenate onto that variable right here, just like this. That should be able to get it for us. Okay, just take a look at the code again, starting from this place up to this place. Make sure that your code is correct, and then down to this place. Okay, so let's go ahead and then test this application right now. Alright, so let's go ahead and refresh this page, and once it is refreshed, we can go ahead and fill the form again, get this, and let's go ahead and get the access bank account. So let's paste the bank account right there, and let's transfer maybe 600 this time, and let's click on transfer, and we have the other part of the application to be executed. That is this part of the application to be executed. But if we take a look at the URL, we have that ID. Okay, maybe we did not really set this ID very well. I think it's incorrect. There should be an equality sign here. So let's go back to this page, which is called the index page. And if you take a look at it from here, you will notice that we are supposed to have an equality sign here, like this. So let's save that, and let's go back and refresh, or go back to the payment page again, or the transfer page, and let's try that again. So let's fill this form out again, the bank. So let's take in the account number again, and let's transfer 300. So if we hit transfer, you see that, so we have status to be set to success right now, and we have really fetched everything, because the message says transfer fetched, and this is the ID of the transfer. So basically everything that you need will be fetched and then placed on this page for you. So the next thing that we need to do right now is to grab onto this data that we have right here and then put them in a table. So to do that, let's go back to our development environment and do that. Alright, so let's go ahead and then fetch the rest of the data from here. And in doing that, we have to, let's say we're going to do that right here. But before we do that, alright, so to grab onto those things that we have right now, we can go ahead and do it under this place. So the first thing that I want to get now is going to be to go ahead and get the status on this particular page. So we're going to create a variable that we'll call status, and we're going to go ahead and set that to be equal to this particular variable right now called results, which is going to enable us to grab everything as an object. So with an arrow, I'm going to point to data, and from data I'm going to get the status. So this is going to be status, like that. And for the next one is going to be the amount. So I'm going to just set a variable right here, call that amount, and that is going to be equal to this particular variable called data, and with an arrow we're going to go ahead and get into data, go ahead and grab what is it called, the amount right now. So we're going to just say amount, terminate that line, and then the next thing that we need is going to be the account number. So I'm going to create a variable that I'll call account number, like that, and I'm going to go ahead and then set that to result, and we're going to go ahead and get data first, and from data we're going to get account number, like that, and the next one is going to be the ID if we wish. So I'm going to just say ID, and the next one is going to be the reference. So I'm going to just set a variable called ref, and this is going to be data, and I'm going to just say reference, and the next one is going to be the full name. So this is going to be full, and we'll get the full name. The next one is going to be the date. So I'm going to set a variable that I'm going to call date. So the date is called created at. So this is going to be called created underscore at. And I'm getting this, I hope you guys know where I'm getting most of these things from, like this created at. Let me show you that. So this thing, everything that we have in there is embedded inside of this data array. Okay, so for me to get an ID, I need to mention data, then get the ID. And for that date that we were seeing right there, what is the date is right here. See, created at. So I'm using this created at, then it is going to go ahead and get the date and time for me. Okay, so I just want to show you that so that you don't feel confused. So the next one is going to be the bank name. Then the next one is going to be the narration. So I'm going to create a variable called narration, and I'm going to go ahead and then say data, and that's going to be narration. That's pretty much all the data that we want to grab right now. So the next thing we want to do right now is to go ahead and then see how is it that we can print all of these things in a table. And to do that, we need to copy our HTML and then put it right there. So I'm going to go to the index right now, and I'm going to copy everything that is on this page. Not really everything, but the HTML part. So I'll copy from here down to the last HTML. And if we go back to verified.php, I'm going to go ahead and paste that particular HTML stuff right there. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to change the title here. So this is going to be, I want to call this let's just attach verification right here, something like that. And we can go ahead and copy that, and also even make use of that within the title. And we can go ahead and then, let's say maybe within this place where we have H1, we can put a horizontal roller bar right there and the line break. So that is just that. And then I'm going to take away this form. We don't need this form on this page. Rather, what we need is going to be a table. So I'm going to just say table, and let's close off the table tag right here, and let's create the table. Alright, so this video is taking too long time. Also, what I just did now is to copy the table headers and data. So I'm going to just go ahead and paste that right here, and we'll go over it. So this is just for, this first one is for the full name, and this is for the account number, the bank name. They probably understand what these things are. And then here is where I'm really printing those variables that we just created up here. See these variables that we have up here? That's what I'm trying to print out right there. So if you check all of them, they are just these same variable names. Okay, let's see if I made any mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and save that right now, and let's take a look at that from our browser. So if you don't, I don't know whether you guys saw everything that I have in there. So look at what I just copied and pasted. This right here. So you have to just type that, and if we go back to our browser and refresh, you should be able to see that table right there. And we have that printed out for us, but we do have some little errors, like we have a variable undefined there, transfer ID, and I think that was called ID instead of transfer ID. So if we go back and check that, alright, so that was called ID, it wasn't transfer ID, so I'm going to copy that right now. And if we scroll down to that particular place, we should be able to just put it right here. So this should be ID instead of transfer ID. So let's refresh the page again, and that error is really gone, so we don't have any other error again. So the next thing that we need to do right now is to go ahead and then get the styling for this table. Okay, so to do that, let's go to the CSS. Alright, so I've gotten the CSS, so I'm going to go ahead and paste the CSS down here, just a little lines of code. So we started from here, and then from here down to this place. That's just what the CSS is right now. So let's save this, and if we go back to our browser, make sure you type it out. If you type this out, and then if you go back to your browser and refresh right now, you should be able to have the style coming, and that did not show, so we think we need to clear the cache. So clear the cache away, and here we go. So this is how it is looking right now, and that's probably how in the presentation this is how it looks. Alright, so we have everything in here for us, and we need to get rid of this thing that is displaying up here. To do that, if we go back to our verify.php, we can, let's scroll up, and on this line where it says var dump, just put a double / to comment that out, and that is just that. So that will not be displaying again. So before we close, let's go ahead and test this application again and see whether that is going to still work with different data. Alright, so let's go ahead and fill out this form, and let's select the bank. Then for the bank account number right there, and let's say we're withdrawing 1,000. So go ahead and click on transfer, and congratulations, we have that. Alright, so we have that in place, as you can see. So that is really working right now. And quickly, well, if you look at the status, it says pending. Maybe if we refresh again after a minute, this should say successful at this moment. Okay, so this time around it says pending. After a minute, it should be able to say successful. So that is just that. And then quickly, let us just go ahead and create our field page. And so quickly, let's go ahead and create our field page. And to create that, I'm going to just go ahead and copy this page. So let's Control A to copy everything that is in this page, and let's go to our field.php, and let's paste that right there. And we do not need this table right here, so I'm going to take away this table, and we can go ahead and say something like, let's say in paragraph, we're going to just say something like, we could not verify this transfer this time, just something of that nature. Okay, and we can go ahead and close the p tag, and we can go ahead and attach the ID for the error right here, which in our case it was just error, like that. So we'll save this page, and that is just it for this video. And then I kind of made a lot of mistakes, and that is because I'm just trying to type most of these things without having to look at the code I already had. So thank you guys, and I hopefully you guys understand what I was doing, and you can use this to help yourself in the future. And I'm going to put up the code on GitHub so that you guys can copy that. And if you like the video, just go ahead and hit the like button, and if you don't like it, the dislike button is also there. You can just hit the dislike button. That will help me know what I'm doing right here. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.